Hello, everyone. Welcome to this third information session of the 2025 Sasol New Signatures Visual Arts Competition. My name is Funza Sidogi, a member of the organizing team, and I'm, of course, here with my colleague, Kate Blanche, who's also a member of the organizing team, but also the curator of the Sasol Art Collection. Hi, Kate.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Funza. So great to be with you again today.
That's right. So this recording, of course, was preceded by an amazing conversation that we had with MJ Khan, who is the group head of digital communications at Sasol Limited. I hope I've got that right. And he was really taking us through the importance of having an online presence and curating that online presence on the different platforms that are available for emerging artists based on his 10-year association, over 10-year association with the Sasol New Signatures Visual Arts Competition, and having seen how artists use different platforms in order to leverage their participation in this competition. So we encourage you to have a listen at that, and also the other information sessions that we've recorded from previous years as well that have really valuable insight and tips and information about the competition that is still relevant for today. So the next conversation that we're going to be having just builds on that initial talk we had with MJ around the significance of emerging artists leveraging these online platforms. And it's really just a more fundamental discussion of what it means to be emerging and where the competition is pitched in terms of the type of artist that we want to engage with. And we really felt it necessary to have this conversation, again, based on how we see artists engage with us and engage with the competition, that it's necessary for us to really think through what it means to be emerging, and therefore what it means to participate in this competition, and what are the expectations that we have on artists, and also maybe what expectations artists should have, realistic expectations artists should have when they still find themselves within this framing of emerging. So Kate, I don't know if you can just kick us off by really thinking through this idea of emerging, because sometimes artists might misunderstand why we are as a competition very strict on saying these are the type of artists that we are wanting to engage with.
Yes, I think it is important to understand exactly what that term emerging artist means. And for us, definitely it means that it's not someone necessarily a young artist in terms of age. We don't have any age limit in the competition, but emerging meaning young in your career. So you are starting off, and that's why we also have some of our, the rules and regulations say that if you've had a solo exhibition, if you are represented by a gallery, so forth, you are no longer really considered emerging. And I think that is a very, very important thing to remember. I think what's also very important to bear in mind is that even though you are emerging, there is a specific kind of conduct that is expected of you. And I think that is actually really where maybe this conversation is going to go, to just share some of our insights in terms of how do you approach your career if you're an emerging artist. I think we've spoken about digital platforms and having your digital presence really well curated and to spend time doing that. But there are other aspects as well, such as, your documentation of your CV, your bio, You know, you have to have those documents really sort of, you know, updated. And they need to be professional, so that when you are approached by a gallery, that you can just really just share that information, it's up to date, and so forth. I think there's some other aspects as well that you might like to touch on, Finzo.
Yeah, certainly. I, I think also at a very foundational level is to understand the importance of this stage within within your journey or their journeys of becoming professional visual artists. That it's the first step, and usually the first step does matter. It's not to say that if you make mistakes now or you make art that is not best representation of you now, that's it. It's curtains to your career. But at the same time, yes, there'll be mistakes that will be made along the way. Even when you're a professional artist, kind of established artist one day, there'll still be some hits and some misses. But really to kind of approach this first step with the level of professionalism, and that's something that we focus on a lot in this competition. Professionalism is critical. And yes, at a very basic level, it's about you engaging with the rules and regulations of the competition. That if you contravene any of those, unfortunately, you will not make it in. The quality of the artwork. So there are just some fundamentals that are absolutely essential at this point of time. While we do understand that, yes, you are still young in the maturity of your career. I think another thing, that the one that maybe I would like to touch on, is emerging does not mean a destination. Emerging is a process. It's actually a journey. It is just one part of your journey. I think oftentimes artists feel that if they put into this category of emerging, that is it. We've kind of limited their careers, that they will forever be emerging. No, it is just a stage in your development. And and understanding that is important, because what it also means is an acknowledgement. The flip side of that coin is an acknowledgement that you've not yet arrived, that you are in the process of learning. And so that requires a level of humility as well, to understand that there are some artists that are at a more advanced stage in their careers, that there are some people and professionals and individuals that are more experienced than you, know more than you, that you could then learn from, and that their opinions are, when they give you advice, is not meant to denigrate you or to patronize you. It's really born from a place that they do know more, and they do have slightly more experience, and that this is just part of your journey. The likes of Diane Victor, who was a recipient of one of the prizes for this competition many years ago, was also at some stage of her career an emerging artist, right? She didn't start off as the artist that she is today. So it's to understand that kind of trajectory that you're on. And so where we see this manifesting, Kate, and perhaps we can have a conversation about this, where we see the inability for artists to perhaps have that humility, is in the pricing of their work. Where,
Absolutely.
yeah, where there isn't an awareness of, okay, if I'm at this stage or this point of my career, I cannot be asking for prices that are at the same level as a Diane Victor, who, as I said, uh, was a recipient of one of the prizes many years ago, was also emerging at some point, but now is an established, international recognized artist. So yes, let's talk a little bit based on our experience of the competition, with just the pricing and some of the numbers that we often see when we are doing the judging.
Yes, some of the submissions that we've received over the years have it's left us a bit gobsmacked. You know, some of the works are really, really amazing drawings or something, but you can't ask 80,000 or 100.
150,000. We've seen, Kate, some asking over 200,000
Yes,
for an
yes,
artwork.
for an artwork, and it's just not. It just doesn't fly. First of all, what you're going to be doing is you're definitely showing that you have no understanding of where your career is, firstly. I think you're also alienating a lot of the people that could have been interested in acquiring your work, and it's very difficult once you've actually set the bar up there and said, this is what my work costs, to sort of change that. You can't all of a sudden say, okay, now my work costs 5,000 rand.
Because and I'm just to jump in there, because sometimes artists do get lucky, emerging artists, and I'll use that word luck because there isn't an exact science to this. But sometimes, as you noted, some of the artworks are amazing, they're exceptional, and maybe you do sell one work for 80,000 rand. But then you soon discover that, oh my goodness, that was maybe just a once off. And yes, as you are correctly noting, Kate, to then readjust the pricing and bring it down to a level which actually speaks to your stage of development is not so easy.
Mm. Yes, I think it's very important for artists just to really understand where they are and to price their works according. So we're not saying that you shouldn't charge for all the materials that you've used, the time that you've spent, and all those kind of things. Definitely not. But just try and be a bit more realistic about that. I think also something that I have also seen is that artists sometimes charge different prices for the same kind of work. So, they might have one drawing going for 5,000 Rand and a very similar size, everything, going for 20,000. So that also, it doesn't really create a very good impression when your buyers see that, because it's very confusing, and it really doesn't add to your reputation. So
Oh yeah. So now on that point, just to close it off with the pricing, we have had a lot of discussion internally as an organizing team around how we deal with this aspect, because the competition is for emerging artists. If an artist already feels that they can sell an artwork at 100,000, you are no longer emerging. You've essentially made it, and we have studies that confirm that. If you look at any market survey, it will tell you that your top artists, your William Kentridges and so on, they're the ones that are in the range of your 150 upwards, 200,000, 500,000. And of course, in the secondary market, you see valuations going into the millions. But in terms of contemporary practicing artists, anything above 200,000, you are a made artist in the South African context. So we've been having discussions around the limit, that there have been some team members that feel very strongly that because this is a competition for emerging artists, we should have a limit in terms of the amount that artists are allowed to charge, and then that would go into the entry form. And if any artist feels that their artwork is valued more than that limit, then they would not be allowed to submit their work. Now we've not implemented that as yet, but I'm just giving this anecdote because we really, this is something that we take seriously, and we want the potential entrants to also consider seriously as well, that if you are putting your work at an unreasonable pricing point, it also reflects does not reflect what the competition is about. So it puts us in a tricky position when we have the final exhibition at the Pretoria Art Museum, and people are coming in there excited to see this work from yes, budding new artists within the visual arts industry, and bam, they're seeing prices of 150, 200,000. They question us, and part of the reason is because they come back to us and they say, hey, we thought this was for emerging artists and we are seeing this type of pricing. So yes, we don't have a hard limit, but I'm just noting this, that that artists are aware that these are very serious issues or conversations that we're having around pricing. And also, many years back, we used to have art fairs like the Turban Art Fair that actually had a hard cap on the amount of money you could charge if you wanted your work to be in that fair. And I think it stood at about 40,000 initially. Uh, One can always confirm the exact numbers, but that really helped to ensure that the type of artists that we're showing there, or even if it was experienced artists or your more established artists, if they wanted to show at that phase specifically, they had to price it at a reasonable amount. And of course, Kate, we are aware of the economy that we exist in. And so you really do limit yourself in terms of the market. And perhaps we can segue, Kate, to just towards the discussion of where the Sasol New Signatures Visual Art Competition stands in relation to some of the other opportunities that are there within the visual arts domain. So we are kind of like an entry point, and then there are things like art fairs, and you recently went to Latitude's art fair. So yeah, if you can maybe also help contextualize that for potential entrants to understand that we are part of a much larger ecosystem.
Yes, I think that is also a very good point there, Funzo, because when you have been selected for Sasol New Signatures, it's not sort of a magic wand. All of a sudden you've arrived if you've been selected, and now all of a sudden you can demand certain prices or whatever. It really is just actually an acknowledgement that you have the potential to have a really great career. And I think also it's a stepping stone.
So, yeah, I wanted to say it should be a motivation that you're on the right path, right?
Yes.
You're on the right trajectory.
Yes. So I did go around to Latitudes a couple of weeks ago, and it was so wonderful for me to be able to walk around and see so many of the artists that have been associated with New Signatures being featured there. And, you know, that was just such a wonderful moment for me to realize that, you know, the platform is actually there to showcase your works, and you don't know who is going to be looking at your work, seeing the catalogs, going to the exhibitions, and what may come from that. So just to emphasize the fact that, you know, artists need to see this as a stepping stone. It's not an arrival point, but a stepping stone. And
yeah, that is so important. I mean, Kate, in the past, we've heard comments like, oh, yes, I was a finalist in the competition, or maybe even part of the winner's circle, and the competition did not do anything for me.
Yes, yes.
And our response is, yes, the competition itself is just a platform, as Kate is noting. It's just a stepping stone. You use that platform in order to reach the other opportunities and milestones that exist within the industry. Because yes, you are emerging. That means you are in a process of discovery and growth. So do not let the competition be your end point. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Even as a winner, we have seen situations in the past where people have even won this competition, and for them that was the high point of their careers. And for us, that as much as we believe our competition is amazing, it should not be the high point. It should be only one of the points in your journey.
Yes, yes. And I think that the big thing that you've also noted there is, that what happens to you and your career after new signatures is very much dependent on how you actually see this opportunity. There's some artists that just like, okay, everything should come to me. And then there are other artists that really, they understand the purpose of this platform. The purpose is to network, to showcase your work. Your work is in a catalog. That means it's something to add to your CV. Um, and they understand that, and they really just exploit, if I can use that word, they exploit all the opportunities. And that is a very, very important thing.
Without without a doubt, and you are right. We are filled with so much pride when we do see artists leveraging the this competition and going on to do much greater things. And um, yes, what we would love to see then in terms of the sustainability is a presence at art fairs, at biennales. We've had previous winners that have then gone on to represent South Africa at the Venice Biennale, right, which is kind of considered the Olympics of art, at international art fairs as well. So um, we 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 have obviously spent today's session discussing the notion of emerging, but we really want to emphasize it so that artists understand that it is but a step in their overall journey, which will then lead them to even greater platforms than than the Sasol New Signatures Visual Arts Competition, and we firmly understand that where this competition lies within the grander ecosystem of the visual arts in the country, and we are deeply appreciative of the fact that it still exists, that all of these years later there is this platform, because not all spaces have such an opportunity that offers artists uh, a space where they can become professionals in a manner where they are nurtured and guided along the way. Uh, so perhaps on that point, it's just worth again noting we've got an amazing website where resources, tips, interviews with past winners, judges. It's available. We've got images from previous winners and catalogs as well, which is also an important learning part, right? Just knowing what others are doing, and
Yes.
especially others who have been successful. What have been some of the ingredients of success? And perhaps at this point, Kate, as we draw to a conclusion, you can talk about the significance of emerging artists engaging with other exhibitions. And you've noted that you went to Latitudes and you saw what's happening there. And you obviously also have exhibitions that are always ongoing at Sasol Place. And so encouraging emerging artists to attend our public museums, to attend our whatever space where art is being shown, they have to be there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You cannot be an artist in a void. You have to go out and see what everyone else is doing. And yeah, maybe if you're living in an area where a gallery isn't, readily available, go online, and just make sure that you understand, and that you get exposed to all these exhibitions. There are so many amazing exhibitions on in Gauteng at the moment, and I think one of them um, is the Enduring Signatures exhibition that I've curated for Sasol Place. And my thinking behind this exhibition was that the competition is really built on artists that submit every year, whether they're going to win or not. It's that the need for wanting to do something with their careers. And I just wanted to sort of celebrate that spirit with this exhibition. And a number of the artists that I've been included have actually entered into New Signatures more than once, sometimes 3, 4 times. And the way that that has affected their careers is actually so interesting, because they've all developed very solid careers in the art world, despite the fact that they're not necessarily ever been a winner. And we will be, the exhibition is on during the submissions. So any of the visitors to Sasol Place on 10th and 11th of June are welcome to come through. Some of the artists are going to be present and they can chat to them. And just view the amazing works that these artists are doing. So
yeah, thank you for bringing up that point as we close around the difficulty, unfortunately, because of the vastness of our country, of accessing what we would call the kind of visual arts capitals of our country, Gauteng, Western Cape Province, and we also have some exciting things in the KZN region in terms of galleries and museums. That we are really fortunate that online platforms exist, and so yes. That's a reality, that's a limitation. Even to enter our competition, we understand it, that is also a limitation. But at the very least, we have online platforms. And again, if you go to the Sasol website, you get a virtual tour of the exhibition from the previous year, which is phenomenal. So you get to see it almost in real kind of spatial dimensions through your screen. So there are ways around some of those problematics and limitations that unfortunately many of our artists around the country still experience. But having said that, again, please visit the Sasol New Signatures website, social media platforms, just all of these different resources that we've made available for emerging artists. As we've been trying to emphasize during this recording. Thank you so much for listening in. We wish you all the best if you've entered the competition and waiting, and maybe you've made it into the final round. Congratulations. And who knows, maybe you might be one of the merit prize winners, runner-up or winner. As we look forward to September, our next conversation will be a discussion around the judging process, because we really would like to unpack that for entrants and also for those that have made it into the final round, to just understand how we select the winners, and then we'd also like to invite maybe previous winners as well to talk through their experience. So just be on the lookout for the next recording.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you at the submissions.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.